Hey, I'm Todd McFarlane, creator of Spawn, and you're watching GameSpot live. Within the confines of my companies, we deal with outside licenses with music and movies and films, and I've helped direct a couple of music videos. So anything pop culture, basically, we've been involved in, or I have specifically. It's sort of interesting. You usually have like people sort of buzzing back and forth between companies, trying to, take meetings with each other. So the exact origin of who approached who, I don't know where that came from. I know that we got to the point where we were talking about whether we wanted to do a dedicated game to Spawn. And then within the confines of that, I knew they were doing Soul Calibur, and the conversation came up about us maybe doing the toys. And then as we were doing the toys, and the conversation went, well, how about creating a character? And then while we were creating the characters, like, well, since we're doing Spawn, why don't we think about putting Spawn back in the Soul Calibur? So where we're at right now, I don't think anybody thought of at the very beginning. It was just, let's go see if we can sell a Spawn video game. But now, as we sort of commingle a little bit with some of the ideas that we've done with Namco and the Soul Calibur, it allows us to potentially reach a new audience with the character, because there'll be, tons of people buying that video game that may just see Spawn as a cool character from that video game, and eventually, once he spins off to his own game, they'll go, hey, that's that guy from Soul Calibur. And so you reach potentially a new customer, where there's others that go, no, I know what Spawn is, I don't need an education. So anytime you can try and broaden, the number of people that are aware of your product, it's actually good. The first go around, Necrid was very big and a lot more thick. I wouldn't call him like a Hulk, but he was closer to that than where he is right now. But because it's a fighting game and they need him to move quick and be a little nimble, they wanted us to make sure that he was a little thin so that he didn't look sort of awkward as he was making his quick moves. And then again, they had the idea of the power that he was going to display, and we just had to sort of incorporate it in with his visuals. So yeah, we're just sort of bounce stuff back and forth till we got it. Yeah, the Evil Prophecies came about as instead of creating like a comic book and then converting them, or making a movie and converting them, or a television show and converting them into a video game, I also run and own a toy company, and within the confines of that, we go for outside license. For instance, we're doing all the T3 and the Matrix toys and the Soul Calibur toys. But sometimes we actually do internal stuff. And one of the things we had done was this line called McFarlane Monsters. And we took then that line around to see if anybody would be interested in us applying some of the sensibilities into a video game. And we ended up with Evil Prophecy. Now, we couldn't use monsters because of the legal reason, but it's essentially using those toy characters and putting them into a different medium. Just like we had made toys of these characters called Tortured Souls that Clyde Barker and I had come up with. And then we ended up selling that out to Universal Studios as a movie, of which I just read the script last week. So, it doesn't have to start always from a book. To me, there's other ways to do it, and we're showing that, there's now 2 examples where you can start in another medium and put it into a video game. Whenever you license out your product, unless you're going to be there every day, you have to sort of give a tremendous leap of faith into the people that are developing it. So what ends up happening is that we get either some of the developers to come from time to my office. They send us demo reels. They're always giving us, flat shots of what the characters are going to look like and what their motions are going to look like. They show us what the backgrounds are going to look like. And so, I was talking to the head developer on the Evil Prophecy game, telling him that, we need to sit down and have a conversation on lighting. It'd be interesting to talk about lighting as a whole and see if we can't sort of convey some mood and some dynamics as you have these people sort of walk from level to level. And so, besides what the person looks like, how are they moving, what's the environment look like, what's the powers looking like. But again, you're somewhat at the mercy of the actual programmers and what they're capable of doing or not. I think video games are really no different to me than like any other medium. And so, I mean, obviously they're a tremendous leap away from comic books because comic books are single panels of unmoving images. So you stage a guy flying, but you never actually get to see him flying. Or he's picking up a building or whatever, a locomotive, and you never actually get to see it. We're now in animation and TV and films and video games. I mean, those guys are in constant flux, and they're going it, and now you have to sort of say, well, let's say, for instance, in Spawn's case, well, how does his cape move when he's moving? Because in the comic book, you can do this crazy drawing, and you don't have to figure out all the stuff in between. I make the same sort of judgment call of video games as any other one. It's a medium that's only as good as the people that are actually working on it. So in Hollywood, there may be 1,000 directors, but I think that maybe only 40 of them actually put the entire package together. You can walk around and look at the video games, and I think that you can sort of see who the A-list developers are and the teams are, because you go, wow, and then 2 steps later you see another game that seems a little repetitive, that you go, other than it's different content, I've seen that before. There's nothing really sort of new or striking. And so for me, the guys that are trying to use the technology and going, well, how do we push it to the next level, and how do we keep pushing, those are going to be the games and the people and the companies that are going to actually get the most success, because just like anything else, we want to always stimulate ourselves with new ideas.